Guys. I'm so sorry. I totally tried to do this live stream a couple times. So the first time I was going to do it from my son's while he had football practice, but the first time there was something going on and I couldn't get connected. And then the second night that I was going to do it there it was drama. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. So I'm trying to make up for it now. I'm here. I don't think anybody's actually live watching, but there's a couple comments. Elizabeth says good evening. Yeah, I'm so sorry that I was a no-show. And then Katie says that's beautiful. Mary Magdalene. Yes. So hello. So anyway, I wanted to do this video, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling every bit of living in a post-Catholic world. That's just the best way I can describe it right now. And so something that has been on my mind lately is just because, what I talk about with my line of work and things like that, the spiritual aspects, the spiritual elements, the spiritual entities behind sexual promiscuity. And what I mean by that is, sex outside marriage, lust, the sin of lust, adultery especially. And I find a lot of times, just from observing and doing what I do for work and doing background checks on people and things like that, that it's usually when you have a problem with sexual promiscuity, when you have sexual sins in your life, it comes out in other areas. I would say it never happens where somebody can, we hear a lot of times in society where it's almost like people try to categorize areas of their life. So for example, they'll talk about their sex life as one area, their health and fitness as another area, their finances as another area. And from what I can personally observe, when one area of your life is a mess, especially, I won't say when one area, but when you have sexual sins in your life, it bleeds out into other areas of your life. So there's disorder in other areas of your life. It can't be categorized and put in a little neat box. Well, I struggle with this sin and it's an isolated thing in my life that I have to work on. No, it really does bleed out into other areas of your life. And my personal hypothesis is that it's because of the specific demons behind sexual sins. Sexual sins are, number one, the hardest vices to break. They're just very hard vices to break, very hard sins to get rid of. Very powerful. Sex is very powerful temptation. And the demons associated with sexual sins affect other areas. It's not an isolated thing. And the sexual sins are the easiest to, the sexual sins open the door, in other words. It's the fastest opening of the door, if you will, to allow bad, sketchy angels into your life. That's just what I can personally observe. And so the more sexually promiscuous a society becomes, in my feeling on it, is that it also goes hand in hand with the occult. Very much so. So the more occult, the more pagan a society becomes. Sexual promiscuity and paganism, worshiping false gods, they go hand in hand. They absolutely do. That's why you see even in their rituals, the Satanists, they will rape a woman or abuse children, things like this, because it is the most powerful way to open that person up to demons. And unfortunately, they're innocent victims. A lot of times they end up getting possessed and things like that. And it's very sad. But my point is it's not an isolated event. So, for example, the last case I worked on, right, that I just closed up, the person that had came in, so there's the subject, which is the person that we're following. So that's usually the cheating spouse. So the husband hired us to follow around his wife, right? The person that the spouse is cheating with is called the paramour. So in the last case I just closed up, the paramour had come in and poached this wife, right? So he had taken her as his own, the husband got kicked out, they're living together, it was a mess. But he also had theft charges, like a criminal background of being a thief, stealing. And so that's just, it goes to show you, it goes hand in hand. It's a there's a demon of thief. There's a deception where he thinks he can take whatever he wants. I guess entitlement would be a good way to describe it, but that's just one area. And so when you start participating in these sexual sins, whether it be adultery, fornication, etc., you start having major issues in other areas of the life, whether that's finances, whether that's criminal records, something like that, trouble with the law. That's just my personal observation. When I start watching, sometimes I have to watch these people for long periods of time to get what we need. And when I start watching them, you can just observe their life totally spiral. Just, they went from having a nice house and a nice neighborhood, family, wife, kids, their life pretty much in order, to just absolute chaos in a matter of months, and it's sad. And a lot of times, so for me, I have to really focus on praying for the people, everybody involved in the situation, and not judging them. So, I collect our evidence and things like that. But as far as judging for myself, like, I have to be careful not to fall into this trap of me thinking I have some moral high ground to judge people. So what's helpful for me is to focus on the spiritual entities behind the person's behavior. And so one of the ways I do this is to constantly remind myself about the incident of the woman caught in adultery, which I'll get into in a minute. The Jews wanting to stone this woman, bringing her to Jesus to try to trap him, right? And him saying, not stoning her, not condemning her. He says the famous line of, basically, whoever is without sin can cast the first stone, and then everybody goes away and she's saved, right? And so let's break this down for a minute. I think it was one of the Gregories, Pope Gregory, was it the first? I'm not sure. Gave this woman the identity of Mary Magdalene. He said it was Mary Magdalene who was this woman. And as we all know, she became Jesus's most loyal follower. She was at the foot of the cross, obviously maybe besides Mary. And there's also different interpretations of what her crime actually was. Some say that it was, because of the translation, it was promiscuity, where she was a prostitute. Others say it was actually adultery. Either way, sexual sin, sexual promiscuity. And the punishment at that time, according to Jewish law, was to be put to death by being stoned. But Jesus doesn't do this. And it's not because Jesus thinks that, they don't have to follow the law or whatever. I think it's for a very specific reason, because what are we told? We are told in that gospel that he cast 7 demons out of her, which means there's a possibility that he did not condemn her because she might have not had full control over her actions because of the 7 demons manipulating her, possessing her, being, the responsible ones for her behavior. And so he's God. He knows somebody's heart. He knows everything. He's the ultimate judge. And so he could have seen that she wouldn't have been fairly, condemned to death or whatever. And so he had to get out, he got her out of it and then healed her. So he chose the route of healing and deliverance. And as we see, she turned her life around. Now, I believe personally, a lot of these sexual sins, adultery as a whole, especially adultery, I think it's always diabolical, whether it be normal temptations or extraordinary activity, whatever the case is, it's always diabolical. And so our reaction as Christians, because it's going to get harder to live a chaste life, obviously. It's going to be harder to, you're just laughed at now if you even bring up the word chastity. Let's be honest, we live in a pagan world. And if you look at pagan societies, at the height of paganism, look at the Roman Empire, right? At the height of the pagan Roman Empire, it was totally, they destroyed themselves because they just got so disgusting. It just, everything, homosexuality, transgenderism, orgies, just you name it. You guys know, you can go look it up. But as we get more post-Christian, we're going to see things like polygamy in cultures in the West where it's been previously shunned, things like this. And so our response as Catholics is what we need to be concerned about. There's really nothing we can do about the world's going to hell in a handbasket, but we can pray against it. And that is what we should do. We can't get caught in this whole judging of people because we don't know. We're not authorized to judge. That's not our job. We can see that somebody has fallen into sin, and we can pray against the demons behind that person's actions. And when you're on the receiving end of being hurt by somebody's sexual promiscuity, this can be the test of your lifetime to try to do this. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience, but it's necessary, because if not, if you don't pray for the person who's hurt you and forgive them, I don't mean reconcile, I mean forgive. And in fact, I'm going to talk about reconciliation in a minute. But if you don't pray for them and pray against the demons that could be influencing their behavior, you're going to have a hard time at your judgment. So do it for yourself. As far as reconciliation is concerned, unless the cheater, the spouse who's cheating or whatever, is trying, honestly wants to change and is making steps toward changing, I would say the best course of action is to keep your distance, not only to protect yourself physically from diseases, emotionally from, just heartache, but also spiritually, because what happens when, and I've talked about things like soul ties before, what happens when somebody has multiple sexual partners is that you, as the legitimate partner, if you're the spouse, you're going to start having spiritual interference in your marriage. You're going to start having in your relationship, you see this all the time. And I've personally experienced this as well. When the other spouse is cheating, the spouse who's being cheated on intuitively already knows, even without evidence. So they already know. Sometimes that's just due to the other person acting out of character, changing their behavior. But I also think it's spiritual because of the fact they can, feel intuitively, know intuitively on a spiritual level that there's some spiritual interference. There's a tie being developed, if you will, between their spouse and somebody else. Because in the sexual, spiritual worlds, St. Paul tells us you become one flesh with the person. So the spiritual world, whether you have sexual relations with your wife or a prostitute, it's the same. It doesn't matter. Problem being the illegitimate one with the prostitute, whatever, opens you up to sin, opens you up to demons because of sin. And it's not a protected covenant at that particular point. So the demons are able to use it and to manipulate and to get in. And so it's important that you protect yourself, very much so. So I guess that's my little thing I wanted to get into is this, the spirits behind it. And we have to take the model of Jesus and really just pray for that person, pray for deliverance for them, pray against the demons that are influencing them to make bad decisions. And I'm telling you, sometimes it doesn't seem like the other person, the adulterer, sometimes it seems like they get off easy, but they don't. I promise you that. There's always, their life always spirals out of control. It's never better when they leave their spouse for the mistress or whatever, the guy version of the mistresses. It's never better. Their life always gets significantly worse. And it just, you can watch it. I mean, I do. And everything gets out of control. So hope y'all have a great day. Today is the Feast of St. Michael. I saw something interesting I posted. Tonight is the full harvest moon. Actually, it was this morning at like 5 a.m. Full harvest moon. And then next Saturday is obviously First Saturday, but it's also Our Lady of Victory, Our Lady of the Rosary. And so they line up in an interesting kind of mysterious alignment. A lot of people think something bad or something significant is going to happen in October. I don't know. I'll keep my opinions to myself on that. But I can say it's getting difficult. It's been difficult, but I'm feeling every bit of trying to live in a post-Christian society. And the reason why it's so chaotic is because it doesn't work. We're not the society, at least European society, what we would consider Western society, wasn't built off of some other religion, so, some Muslim religion, whatever. It was built off of Catholicism. So when you take Catholicism out of the picture and all the values that go with it, it's chaos. So that's what we're experiencing right now. So people are lost. They're trying to find their way. They're trying to justify their passions. But what's happening is it's spiritual chaos, and it's hard to deal with, but keep the faith, stay strong, try to stay out of drama. I'm having to put myself in timeout this week because I have a problem backing down, if that's news to anyone. I don't tolerate disrespect, especially very well, so I've had to get myself in check a little this week. So anyway, pray for me. I will continue to pray for you. Happy St. Michael Feast Day, and I will see y'all later. Joan of Arc Media out.